Some of you are quite familiar with us. Some of you are new. And I'm trying to give people a chance to join in. Don't want to get into the thick of it right out the gate. So I and my team, we have a brilliant team of people who take care of all the PGA related stuff. Funnily enough, that is our topic for today. Um, so that is something that you guys come across often, and more often than not, it's a cause for a headache. So that's what we're trying to relieve you guys of. So we'll continue with PGA compliance in just a minute. I do understand that it's slightly after hours for you guys, so I'll keep it short and sweet and just give you the information that is enough for you to start off with. And if you have any questions, any queries, any specific product related problems, you can shoot us an email later on and can get going from there. So let's jump into it officially. What exactly is PGA compliance, you may ask? Because we are all familiar with US customs and we know anything that you guys export to US has to pass customs oversight. And a lot of the time it's very complicated. But customs itself, despite being extremely good at what they do, they can't take care of everything because there is such a vast variety of products that pass US borders. Customs could not possibly hire enough people that, one, know about all those products, two, know about them well enough to know where the pitfalls are and what are compliance requirements with them. So what customs did is delegated those tasks to other organizations, other PGAs, as we said, partner government agencies that help customs work under customs umbrella. It's like customs, their big brother, and they are just doing their part, their special niche thing. And if they need customs help, they ask for it. So if you are importing planes, for example, there would be a different agency involved with that. Food, FDA, we all know and love, USDA, cars, vehicles, Department of Transport. So any three-letter alphabet combo you can think of, chances are there is a PG organization for it. So Customs right now has a roster of over 47 PGAs. I'm sure you guys will be sick of this repetition by the end of it, but hey, that's the topic for tonight. So as we discussed, partner government agencies are government agencies that work alongside CBP, and they work to regulate certain commodities entering the US. We have mentioned just a few of them that we and you guys come across most often. There are way more depending on the products that are being entered. So just a few, just to name a few, it's USDA and AIST. They are synonymous in certain instances, and sometimes they work separately, but they are one and the same in a lot of instances. At times, it's very hard to distinguish between them. Then, as we discussed, FDA, we all love. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Consumer Product Safety Commission. This last one is a tricky one because they used to be pretty relaxed, I want to say. Well, not relaxed, but their checks weren't as stringent in the past as they are today, and they're going to be even more strict in future. So we'll just have a brief overview of these organizations without diving too deep into them, because as we all know, we are strapped for time today. So first of all is USDA and APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. So this agency regulates all the stuff that's related to animals and plants and agriculture. So think of your fruits, your vegetables, plants, wooden stuff, even furniture or handicrafts and arts and crafts that's coming, being made out of bamboo, for example, or lumber. Then there's meat, animals, even trophy hunting. So if you guys are going on a hunt, maybe in India, I don't think you guys allow Bengal tiger hunting anymore, but let's say you were, and taking it back to US, you would have to go through USDA and their partner people and get scrutinized by them. So I discussed wood material. There is a thing called Lacey Act. I know some of you have come across it already. So that falls under USDA jurisdiction. Organic products, that is relatively new topic, even though it's organic products are regulated by USDA, but very recently, I'm talking a couple months ago, they introduced new requirements for organic products. So anything that has name organic before it, you need to have USDA certification. So that's another thing. Your fresh fruits, veg, all that, beauty products, even if they are organic. So all that comes under USDA and APHIS. Next up, we have EPA. We briefly touched on it earlier. So EPA is, the name is self-explanatory. So Environmental Protection Agency, it works on the things that are being introduced into the environment. So consider your sprays, your hydrofluorocarbons, cleaning products, pesticides, even wipes. In COVID times, we came across a lot of shipments, disinfectants and such that EPA was not too happy with. And there was a lot of this fiasco with that at the time. But yeah, it's good to know about EPA before you're exporting to US. So that's what we're trying to do here today. Next up, Consumer Product Safety Commission. This agency has a very broad oversight. At times, you don't even realize that CPSC is going to be involved with a product, and lo and behold, there it is, and they're asking you for something that you probably don't have. So you can see from the slide itself what they do in academic terms, but in reality, what they do is they are protecting your intellectual property rights, trademarks, labeling requirements. If it's children products, be it garments, toys, anything, they want to take a look at it. They want to take a look at labels. They want test reports, flammability testing, all that. If your bicycle has special kind of paint on it, CPSC is interested. What is it made of? Does it have lead in it? If so, how much? So all that is CPSC's bag. And recently, they have increased the frequency of their inspections, their their queries. I think in my experience, we get like 20, 30 inquiries per day for all the shipments that we do. So they're looking for CPCs, test reports, whether or not you have NOCs from the brand that that you are importing the products for, all that stuff. So CPSC is another PGA to look out for. I'm putting more emphasis on it because FDA and USDA are ubiquitous when it comes to PGAs. Pretty much everyone knows about it or has heard about it from someone. Even to the point, it's a funny thing, it's a tangent, but it's a good way to emphasize that I have come across products that have absolutely nothing to do with FDA, but they have mentioned FDA logo on it just to make it look more authentic. So that's the reputation FDA carries. So yeah, CPSC is just as important and at times even more so. And it's a silent killer, I say, because a lot of the time you don't even see that CPSC is involved. And once the shipment is with customs, then you realize, oh, CPSC is asking for such and such and such. And a lot of the time people don't have those and can't get them because the test had to be done before exporting. So that's that. And now the one that a lot of you are here for anyway, which is FDA, so Food and Drug Administration. Very simple name, but it has a lot of baggage with it. So it takes care of food, drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, any devices or instruments that emit radiation, even your LED bulbs. they are regulated by the FDA. So yeah, FDA has relatively more broad scope. Well, all of them do, but this one is more related to the stuff that you guys are exporting and we are importing. So even tableware, kitchenware, decoration pieces, like, you know, your fancy cake platters or those dry fruit platters that you have in your living rooms in winter. So all those are regulated by the FDA. With food, and they require food facility registration. So registration is another big thing, but it varies with which arm of the FDA you are working with. So if say it's food, you're importing food related product, you would have to have food facility registration. You have to have a foreign supplier verification program. Your importer needs to have it because it has to be a US party. Prior notice, depending on what the product is, if it's a consumption food or if it's just a food contact substance. So the requirements vary. So there's a lot of variation. Variation is going to be a theme with everything. So that is why it's very important to consult someone related to your particular product. That is very important. So next up, another arm of FDA, drugs. Uh, we all know drugs are a sensitive subject, um, but FDA takes it more seriously than anyone else in the world. They take a lot of time, they spend a lot of money and effort to review new drugs, if they're experimental, what are their possible side effects. They do testing, animal testing, human trials, blah, blah, blah. So uh, it takes a long time. I'm talking years, even in certain cases, for a drug to be approved by the FDA. You must have heard about your Pfizer and Moderna vaccines in COVID times. FDA had to fast track, not just fast track quite heavily to get those products approved. And it still took more than a year for them to go through the approval process. So drugs are pretty significant part of FDA's range of oversight. Um, what is drug? You can see it from the slide. It's in anything that is intended to be used in diagnosis, cure, treatment, or prevention of disease. So that's your drug. And this carries different kind of registration. It's different from food facility registration. So oftentimes we come across our clients who are registered as a food facility and they think they can import anything that has FDA on it, including drugs and devices and such. But that's not the case. You have to have separate registration. Your drugs need to be registered. You have to have NDC code for it. So there's a lot of complicated verbiage and jargon involved with drugs as well. So that's that. Next thing is medical devices. So medical devices are also a no-brainer. It's sensitive subject. You are using these instruments, these devices on your body, oftentimes in life-saving or life-critical situations. So you need to be very careful about what product is being chosen. And that's where FDA comes in. So anything that's being imported into the US and is going to have that use, which is it's being used as prevention, treating, curing, or mitigation of disease, FDA is very interested in it and wants to make sure it passes through all those standards and requirements that they have within US. So there are different, they are separated into levels depending on the severity of their use. So there are three levels: level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 3 being the most sensitive. Think your life-saving instruments, your pacemakers, or implants, or synthetic organs even. Level 2 devices are slightly less severe, so they have less strict requirements, but still they need pre-market notifications and everything. Those are your surgical stuff, your scalpels and bone saws and all that stuff. Then there's your level 1, so your, if we can say, relatively day-to-day stuff. So your masks or patient gloves or gowns that are being used in a surgical setting that are level 1 devices. So comparatively, they are the least strict, but even that is, you have to put in a hefty effort to get that. So again, with everything else, you have to have a different registration. If you are dealing with medical devices, importer needs to be registered, manufacturer needs to be registered, even shipper in cases. So medical device registration, FDA medical device registration is an entirely different thing when it comes to FDA registration. So far we have discussed three arms of FDA: food, drugs, medical devices. All three require different sets of registrations, and it's very easy to confuse them. So that's where we need to pay attention. Then there's another one, cosmetics. It used to be relatively easy to import cosmetics in the past because FDA did not require any company to register with them. Sure, there was a voluntary program, but they didn't care, and people didn't care either. So we never saw anyone voluntarily registering with them. But upcoming, actually in 15 days, from July 1, you have to be registered with FDA, even if you are importing cosmetics. So that Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022, that's the act, that's the change that has introduced this requirement. So before that, we were working and FDA were working on archaic rules and regulations that were passed in like way back in 1938. I used to be 5 then, but hey. Anyway, so that is a new requirement that we all need to pay attention towards and make sure we are compliant. It's better to work on that right now rather than when FDA asks you for it. They have given us substantial grace period because it was supposed to be implemented last year, end of last year, actually, October, November, I don't remember. But due to certain problems on FDA's end and very heavy lobbying by the importers and shippers, FDA gave people grace period till July 1st. But from then onwards, every party needs to be registered. So that's important. Cosmetics and drugs have a very fine line between them. So a toothpaste or a shampoo is a cosmetic, but if it has certain intended uses, it becomes a drug. If, say, a toothpaste has fluoride in it, it becomes a drug. Or if a shampoo is anti-dandruff or anti-hair fall, it becomes a drug. So very fine line that you have to straddle at times. So it's very important to ask someone before you decide to export to US exactly what your product falls under, because we have seen what happens when people had a different idea of what their product was than what FDA thought. So that's important. We'll try to generalize requirements that are in effect when you are importing an FDA regulated product. So documentation is the question that we get most often, and that's the most logical question. So before filing, obviously we do get commercial invoices and packing lists for everything. Doesn't matter if it has any PGA involved or not, but packing lists are used mostly as a suggestion and as a formality. It's not as heavily looked at as commercial invoice. But whenever there's FDA involved, you have to pay special attention to packing list, make sure it's accurate, because things work slightly differently with FDA. They don't stop you from picking up your shipment at port. They do let you take it to your warehouse. But that also means you have to keep the cargo intact. And how they verify that is through your packing list. They want to know which SKUs are packed together, how is the color scheme changing, all that. So packing list is important. FDA credentials, we have been banging on about it for the last 15 minutes. Important. Warehouse, as I just mentioned, that they don't stop you from picking up your shipment, but there's a very bold asterisk next to that statement, which is that you have to keep the shipment within the vicinity of the port. So A safe number is 50 miles. The reason behind that is if FDA wants to examine your shipment, they can travel to your warehouse and examine it there instead of asking you to bring it back. So if it's further, or if they deem it further than their radius, they are going to have to ask customs to send you a notice, Big Brother, as we said earlier. So customs is going to send you a redelivery notice. Bringing that product back to port is going to cost you extra trucking, money, time, effort. So that's why it's very important to keep the product within 50 miles. Even if it's going further inland, if it's an FDA regulated product, we recommend to wait before you move it in for FDA release. And once it's filed, the importer and we continuously monitor the product for FDA release, or if FDA has any questions or queries, we respond to them on your behalf, or the importer can do it themselves. So any questions they may have regarding the packing list or the numbers or the colors or ingredients, that's it. Another important thing when it comes to customs, which is customs bond. It's a legal contract issued between broker, their surety, and customs. That's the legal term, but in reality, it's just the importer guaranteeing customs that they are going to remain compliant. And not only that, they can pay penalties if they are found to be not in compliance. So that's your customs bond. Bonds have different types. You have your single entry bonds and continuous bonds. Continuous bond is valid for a year. It has a set amount of coverage. And we recommend people to get a continuous bond if their product has any PGA involved in that. The reason behind that is if you have a single transaction bond and there's a PGA involved, say FDA or USDA or any of the other 47, you have to do a lot of calculations and they need to be accurate. So whatever your invoice value is, you have to multiply it by 3 and then add the estimated duties on top. And whatever the answer is, whatever the magic number is, you have to get a bond for that amount. And more often than not, we have seen that that single entry bond turns out to be more expensive than the continuous bond. So we suggest and recommend, it's a good practice to get a continuous bond if your products are regulated by any of the PGAs. It makes things easy for you and you don't have to worry about varying costs later down the line. So that has been our PGA webinar / presentation. I've tried to keep it short and sweet, but informative. I'm sure you guys have more questions related to your specific products or any instances that you have had in the past with any of the PGA or maybe going through right now. There's always someone going through any PGA related issue. So for that, you can shoot us an email at pga@tuinc.com. Myself and my team will take care of your query and get back to you as soon as possible. I have been Saad Rafiq. I'm head of regulatory compliance at TU Global. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining in and trying to learn more about PGAs and their possible potential impact on your shipments and how you can save money and save yourself from stress, more importantly. So that's where we come in. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your time. Good luck with your shipments. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.